Good morning, brothers and sisters. Done got chilly down here. It's 4:17 in the morning. I'm on the porch with the light on. I wanted to speak on some things since I was up. Been looking at some things, and you know, we're to. Paul tells us, "Follow me as I Christ." Paul ain't saying follow him. Paul says follow him, imitate him as he imitates Christ. Now, Paul says something, and I got it wrote down here. 1 Corinthians 9:27. And I got parentheses some things, so let me go ahead and pull it up because I probably want to read something more than just that. 1 Corinthians 9:27. All right. This dog's barking out here early this morning. I got in parentheses 23 to 27. So let me pull on down here to 23. Let's run 24. Well, 24 to 27. We're going to focus on 27, though. Know ye not. That's 1 Corinthians, what they call chapter 9. Know ye not that they which run in a race run all, but one receiveth the prize. So run that ye may obtain. And every man that striveth for the mastery is temperate in all things. You know, temperance one of them things in 2 Peter 1. Now, they to obtain a corruptible crown, but we an incorruptible crown. You know, them crowns, that's an interesting thing to look at, too. You know, very interesting just to speak on. I'm not much of a doctrinal person on them, you know, but they are a reward that some saints will get. Not all saints will get, and some crowns are just for certain saints. Interesting readings. Okay, let me continue on. But we is incorruptible. I therefore shall run. Paul therefore runs so he may obtain the prize. Not as uncertainly, so fight I, not as one that beateth the air. Interesting concept there, too. Okay, but here comes the part we want to focus on. But I keep my body and bring into subjection, lest that by any means, now, brothers and sisters, I want you to read this, and I want you to hear this. Paul says, lest that by any means, when I have preached to others, I myself should be a castaway. Now, them is some interesting words, and it's in a language we really don't speak, you know, around here much. I mean, receives the prize, and you know, and subjection. Boy, that's a word that somebody wants to speak on. And temperate, and he speaks of the crowns. It's like I said, it's an interesting thing. But Paul says, man, I said my coffee done got cold already. Whew. Paul says, but I keep my body and bring into subjection, lest that by any means, that's the part I'm looking at. You need to understand subjection, but I'm looking at lest by any means, word or deed, I would figure that's by any means. Any word that is spoken out of my mouth or any deed that I am witnessed in doing, or any deed that I do in private, nobody ever sees it, lest by any means, when I have preached to others, I myself should be a castaway. Now, this was a concern of Paul. It really was. Uh, and we've got to, now, excuse me. Now, if we go above what we read, we see where Paul had beans and ham yesterday, and I love them, but I pay for them the next day. I do enjoy my beans and ham and cornbread. Okay, but if we look at what Paul was speaking of, let's go above. Let's go above and see kind of where he was leading into what we just spoke of. Now, Paul spoke to two type of folks. It weren't just unbelievers and believers. Paul broke them down to Jews and Gentiles. And he broke them down to circumcised and uncircumcised. And he broke them down to uh, those under the law and without the law. So now here around here, around here where I live at, I don't speak to Jews. We don't have none around here. We don't have those that are under the law, mosaics. Them folks that's Gentiles that like to dabble in the law. You can't speak to them people anyway. I'm seriously, you just can't. These people are so, oh man, dude, they hurt my head. They don't know our gospel, and I just have to fear they don't know God. I'm serious. They don't know God. If you don't know our gospel, you really don't know God. Well, Brother Andy, I've been saved for 15 years, and the Lord's going to say to a lot of you, I never knew you. You can talk all that religious hogwash you want to. I've been preaching and teaching, and I've been ordained. I've been to the seminary. And God's going to look at my G. He goes, I never knew you. I never knew you. Man, that's a scary concept. Okay, so let me get back on to what I was talking about. But that's what Paul was speaking of. When he would go to those circumcised Jews under the law, when he would go there, he would speak, and he was concerned. He was concerned that after he preached to those people, that by any means he should become as a castaway. Like I say, around here, I don't speak to them people. We don't have any. Man, Paul had I'm telling you, let's look at. I want to say something. The Lord said we're gonna do greater things, and I think this is one of the things He's speaking of. You see, the Lord, He dealt with the people of Israel. He wasn't going out into the world and doing all of it. Paul, Paul was dealing with those of the circumcision and those of the uncircumcision. Man, what a burden to carry. What a burden to be. I see that as one of them things when the Lord said, you're going to do greater things than I did. Look, old brother Anthony ain't raised nobody from the dead. I ain't made nobody see, and I ain't done any of them things. Now, some of the apostles healed. They did do that. And some people, the apostles did them miracles and such. But it's not that they did greater, and that was going out and dealing with people. They call them Gentiles, unbelievers, those that were never in the tribe or the house of God. Wow, that's just me. Y'all might have your own looks on it, but that's what I see as doing them greater things. Uh, Paul had he carried such a burden, but he carried it with joy, and he carried it with a commitment and love that, man, dude. Uh, so myself should be a castaway, brothers and sisters. So I want to ask you this: if Paul had a concern, if Paul had a concern that uh, he should be a castaway, this by any means. Now, if Paul had that concern, don't you think that should be on our list too? Hey, you need to pay attention to. Uh, Now, and it says here, when I have preached to others. So we're gonna run off of that one. We're gonna get on that. When I preach to others, we're gonna take that route. So this is the route we're gonna talk about today. First of all, I'm gonna go to Colossians 4:6. Colossians 4:6. And pull that up. Okay. Let's see here. Colossians 4:6, the big KJV section. Da, 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 da. And actually I had 4:6, but I'm gonna jump up there on 3 and start there. Colossians 4, what they call 4:3. With all praying also for us that God would open us a door of utterance to speak the mystery of Christ, for which I am also in bonds, that I may make it manifest as I ought to speak. Remember Paul talking about when I preach to others, after I done that, don't want to be found a castaway. As I ought to speak. Wow. I'm just going to tell you the honest truth. Come on. That I may make it manifest as I ought to speak. Walk in wisdom toward them that are without. Remember, he said the Jews and the circumcised and the uncircumcised. Walk with wisdom toward them that without. That or without means they're outside the house of God. That's 1 Corinthians 5. They outside the house of God. They ain't in the house of God yet. They unbelievers. Redeeming the time, or using my time wisely. Time is a precious, precious thing, brothers and sisters. You get older that you realize it. Let your speech always with grace, seasoned with salt, that ye may know how ye ought to answer every man. That's what we're going to speak on. That your speech, always with grace, seasoned with salt, that ye may know how ye ought to answer every man. Now, I want you to raise your hands out there. If you know how ye ought to answer every man. Boy, that's a tough one to step up to, ain't it? I mean, let's be honest now. I know that there's a bunch of us out there that, if we honest, we don't know how we ought to answer every man. Yet I see y'all making multitudes of comments. And I can tell by your comment that you don't know how to answer every man. Because something also, every man don't need to be answered. Yeah. There's some questions that says avoid, ain't it? There's some questions that we're to avoid. Even and that's part of knowing how you ought to answer every man. Did you know that? That's part of it. So, but let your speech always with grace. So there you go. Let your speech always with grace. Speech without grace is hogwash. That's my new word. If y'all ain't noticed that, I've been saying that a lot lately. Hogwash. My speech. Now, I'm on just a testimony right here. My speech without grace is hogwash. I mean, that's the way it is. We're to be oracles of God, and that don't mean everybody's an oracle of God. Babes, okay, babes, I love you, but y'all ain't the oracles of God yet. Now let your speech always with grace. Oh, excuse me, man. Seasoned with salt, that ye may know how ye ought to answer every man. I'm telling you, you could just take this one portion right here and live on this for a month. Really, if think about this, you want to fast. You want to do a fast. And a fast don't mean that I don't eat. And a fast don't mean I don't do it with my cell phone. And a fast don't mean all the other hogwash either. A fast means I humble myself before God, knowing that I am in an iniquity, knowing that I am in a sin. And I humble my. If you look at fasting, matter of fact, God says all them fastings y'all do, man, they stink, God, boy, they just rotten. I ain't pleased with them. But you look at God's chosen fast. That's humbling yourself before God, living that life that God wants us to live. Okay, so if you fast, you want to do a fast, right? Man, what a fast to do. Okay, Lord, my speech ain't always with grace. Lord, my speech ain't always seasoned with salt. Lord, I don't really know how I ought to answer every man. Think about that for a minute. Lord, my speech is not always with grace. And grace does not mean mercy and compassion. Grace means God's divine intervention for you to bridle that tongue, capture them thoughts, and grace, God's divine intervention. Grace ain't something you say over the blessing, over the meal. That's giving thanks. Grace is God's divine intervention, His power, His nature. And so our speech will always be seasoned with salt, and we will always know how we ought to answer every man. So, I mean, that's a powerful little portion there, Colossians. Uh, so let's go to somewhere else and speak on that. And we're going to go to 3. They all the same. They in what they call the gospel. So we're going to start in Matthew 5:13. We'll put it up. And here we go. Ye are the salt of the earth. Remember that season with salt? Ye are the salt of the earth. But if the salt has lost his, see, not its, if the salt has lost his savor. Wherefore shall it be salted? It is thenceforth good for nothing, but to be cast out, lest by any means I be found a castaway. But to be cast out, and to be trodden under the foot of man. Now that's in that one everybody called the Sermon on the Mountain, where all you find all the Beatitudes. Alright, so let's go. It's the same one. But we're gonna go to a different author. It's all God, but it's penned by different ones. Luke 14:34. Alrighty, Luke 14:34, excuse me. I messed up. Okay. Salt, good. But if the salt has lost its savor, wherewith shall it be seasoned? Remember, we're seasoned with salt. Okay, let's get out of that. We're going to go to another one. And y'all go and look at these over. Like I said, they all the same portion of the Lord speaking. It's just by the three different people. Now we're going to go to Mark 9:50. All right, Mark 9:50. Boom. And basically he said the same thing as Luke did. Salt good. But if the salt has lost his saltiness, yours, mine, his, ours, individuals lost his saltiness, wherefore will ye season him? Have salt in yourselves, and have peace one with another. Okay. The other day, I was making some breakfast. I enjoy in the kitchen cooking. I do. Now my wife, she likes that iodized salt, that you buy in a big tub, and I fill up her little shaker and she salts it. Me, I like this grinder thing I found at the store. It's sea salt, I think, but it's got big chunk rocks in it, and you grind it. And I've got to where when I make her eggs, I spray the pan down, I pour the egg in there, throw a little pepper on there, and I get that grinder and I go two, two. Now, what? And she said, "Man, them eggs is so good." Now, what if one day I put the egg in there, spray it down, put the egg in there, got that grinder, put my little pepper on it, got the grinder, and went, oh, what the heck? What do you think she would do, being that she's eating them eggs that I have made all these times? And she took that first bite of egg, and I done put about 10, 15 times the salt on that egg. And she took a bite of it. What do you think her face would look like? It wouldn't be nice, would it? Now, what if I was to make her breakfast, spray the pan down, put the egg in there, throw a little pepper, and I put no salt on it? Do you think she would notice that as well? Absolutely, she would notice it. See, we seasoned with salt. Seasoned with salt. When I speak to people, there's some that ought to be able to take fire. Okay, we're going. Man, that hit me. Okay, never mind. Okay, we're gonna go back to what is that? Mark 90. Mark 90. Cause I read that one part 9:50. No, I ain't getting that. That'd take me on a teaching. I'll be speaking on here for a long time. So But if I didn't put no salt on it, would she notice the difference? If I put 4 times the amount of salt on it, would she know the difference? See, how I ought to answer every man, I can't answer every man the same. Some, it's one turn to the salt grinder. And there's some that like 4 turns of the salt grinder. So when we speak, we have to not speak. Okay, I can't speak to my sister Sue over here. Like, I love her to death. She is a wonderful person, but I can't speak to her the same I would speak to my brother James down the road here. Takes me to the store every month. Because see, James can handle more. He can handle. He can handle probably 3. Miss Sue, you know, I gotta be careful on that salt. I can over season it. You know that you can over season food, but and that's where it says my speech with grace. My speech without grace is unseasoned words. My season with grace. See, that speaks to me on how I handle different people, because I don't want to find myself as a castaway after I speak one of these things. I really don't. And don't get me wrong. It's not that I'm going to sit here and I'm going to speak on all this. No, Brother Anthony walks in the house or walks down the street and his tongue is always bridled. Hey, you can ask my wife. I'll prayerfully I catch it, and I did this morning. I did it this morning. Something came up, and I went, and it came out, and when as soon as it come out, I looked up, and I said, "I'm out of this conversation." I was talking. You know who I was talking to, don't you? I'm done. I'm messed up. I'm out of the conversation. It's as easy as that. It's as easy as that. Because see, I got to watch mine. I gotta watch mine. Cause if I don't watch mine, I'm I could be in trouble. Now it's not gonna send. It's a transgressional sin. It's not a sin that's gonna send me to hell. It's not the sin unto death. It's the sin not unto death. It's a transgressional sin, and well, we're covered by grace, and still I don't want to do it. Still, it makes my stomach sour. Just because I have God's divine intervention, just because I have that mercy seat, just because I have it, it don't mean I need to keep, I still need to grow the hell up. Stop being childish. Now, I wrote all this down a few days ago when I was going to speak on it, and I've got some things here I wanna pull up real quick. I don't even know what they are, to tell you the truth. So we're gonna pull them up, and then I'll finish this up. Ephesians 5:21. Let's see what that. I had no note. Oh, here we go. Okay. All right, Ephesians 5. You know I like Ephesians. Okay, Ephesians 5. Uh, uh, Submitting yourself one to another in the fear of God. Okay, I don't know. Okay. Uh, Unless by any means I myself should be a castaway. I think that's where I was going with this. And then subjection, and keep on. I keep under my body and bring into subjection, lest by any means when I preach to others, I'm okay. That's worse. I season with salt. It's that. But I keep under my body, bringing to subjection, lest by any means, when I have preached to others, I myself should be a castaway. Submitting yourself one another. Okay, what if Paul didn't submit to one another? What if Paul, the great apostle Paul, looked at one of them little babes and cried, and said, you know something? Go get me a glass of tea. You're supposed to submit to me. Paul would be a castaway. Because see, Paul was supposed to go get him a glass of tea. Submitting yourselves one to another in the fear of God. The little child come up and asked Paul a question. He said, "Stay away from me. I ain't got time to mess with you." The Lord said, "Let him through." Submitting yourself one. In other words, you talk the talk and the walk just ain't there. You'll find yourself as a castaway. Okay, James 4:7. And I believe these are all going to deal with that word subjection. We'll find out. I forgot. Actually, I wrote them down a couple of days ago. And, oh, there you go. Oh, biggie, brothers, biggie, 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 biggie. Matter of fact, I was on that one this morning. James 4:7. Submit yourself, therefore, to God. Number one thing. In doing that, I am resisting the devil because I've submitted to God. I can't resist the devil on my own. Yeah, I can't do that. I gotta submit to God. And then comes grace, God's divine intervention. Then I can resist the devil. It's a two-part. Step one, step two. You can't take step two without step one. Step two without step one, it's gonna go downhill. I'm telling you, it's gonna happen. And he will flee. Man, dude, think about that. Think about that. The devil will flee from you. The devil will flee from you. Honestly, with a whole bunch of these things I'm seeing on social media and these YouTube places, and people talking and their little testimony, you know what's not happening? Number one is they ain't submitted to God. It's just that simple. They have not submitted to God. They're trying to resist the devil on their own, and the devil ain't fleeing. Nope, he's hanging around, knock, knock, knocking. No, uh, submit to God. You know, like I said in Colossians, my speech, I have to submit to God to speak. Really, I do. If I speak without being submitted to God, if I'm not submitted to God, I'm submitted to flesh. And if I speak in the flesh, I'm fixing to I'm fixing to mess up. All right, let's go to 1 Peter 5:5. Da, 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 da. Likewise, ye younger, submit yourselves unto the elder, yea, all of you subject one to another, and be clothed with humility, for God resisteth the proud and give grace to the humble. Likewise, ye younger. You know, I just don't, I don't, the greatest day, one of the greatest days, y'all have heard me say this a long time ago, the greatest day was the day I found him. Yeah. See, he wasn't the one lost. I was the one lost. When I found him, the second greatest day in my life was when I realized I was a babe, I was unskillful, and I didn't know diddly squat. Although I've been sitting in the assembly for a while reading my Bible, and I had memorized some verses. Yeah, I know some things or two, but I didn't understand them. Yeah, I know them, but I didn't understand them, and that was the key. Okay, submit yourself to the elders. Right there, there is so many people in the transgressional sin, and that right there alone. Not saying submit one to another, but submitting to the elder, and then submitting to the wrong elder. Yeah, we have to know who our spiritual elders are. There's a lot of folks submitting to elders that ain't spiritual. They just elders. Clothed with humility. Oh my word, if you really looked on social media, I want you to go to someone's site and try to find some humility. I know brothers, I see humility in it because he used himself an example on how he used to screw up and do things bad, and how he grew up out of it. Now he's trying to help us, and that's Brother Zach. I think that man, when I listen to him, I for one thing, you know why I can submit to him a whole lot easier in his teachings? Because I see a humble man who actually wants to make sure old brother Anthony gets into the kingdom of God. Yeah. So, but I see humility in his voice. I can hear humility all day long. It's called false pride. Yeah. Humbleness with a deceptive manner. But to see humility in one's words, there's a big, big difference in that, brothers and sisters. To see humility in one's words. For God resists the proud and gives grace. And what do I want? What does old brother Anthony want? I want grace in everything. I want grace in my speech. I want grace in my sight. I want grace in my hearing. I want grace in my smell. And I want grace in my taste. Every one of them spiritual, spiritual sight, spiritual hearing, spiritual sense, spiritual taste, spiritual word. I want that grace in there. But giveth grace to the humble. Okay. Now, so I think that's enough. Uh, I don't like to go long because I know people's attention span. Oh, and I found out something today. They got this thing called analytics. You can go to your videos and see how long, like this video here, 38:55. I can go, man, I can go and I can look at it and I can say, wow, you know what to tell you? Uh, People are only watching your video on average about 2 minutes. But like I said, brothers and sisters, that's y'all. I'm doing what I need to do. Uh, and in that, I'll close with my closing. I'm always praying for you for those things that are needful. And I'll see y'all next time around.